For years, we have known and admired Kerry Washington as an actress and activist, but her role as mother, daughter, and wife have largely remained out of the spotlight.
Yeah, now she's opening up in a moving and very revealing new memoir. It's called Thicker Than Water. It is a beautiful book, Kerry. We're so happy you're
That means
here.
so much coming from you. You're such book girls. So thank you.
We're so happy that you're here, and we've spoken to you several times.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm getting to know you for the very first time in this book. So to have held all these, you know, all this part of you so close to your heart, and then for it to all be released.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to break the dam open and say, like, let it flow?
You know, I guess there are a few reasons. One is that, as I talk about in the book, about 5 years ago, my parents sat me down and gave me some new information about myself that I didn't know, and it really changed the way I thought about myself, about our family. It was shocking. And so I had, at the time, sold another book idea that was like the 10 things I learned about Olivia Pope, or like the 10 things Olivia Pope taught me. And every time I sat down to write that book, all I could think about was this new information and about my identity and our family dynamic. And so I said to the publisher, I don't think I can write a book, and tried to give them their money back because I thought there's no way I'm going to write a book about this. But with time, it felt like, you know, as private as I've been about my kids and my husband, I've been very public about my relationship with my parents. My relationship with them, you know, they come to premieres and to red carpets, award shows, and they're in every movie. And so it felt like I needed to be honest about this relationship.
So let's talk about that text. You had just wrapped Scandal, which must have been like a pivotal moment in your life too.
Absolutely.
And you get
I was already saying, like, who am I? What do I want to do next? What is my purpose? What's my life about?
You know, you had that family of actors that supported you. You saw them every day.
Yes.
Your parents write and they say, come sit down, we have to tell you something.
Yeah. And I went there, and and I went there, and my parents told me that my dad is not my biological father, that I was born from a sperm donor. And so it was, you know, as I said, it was shocking, but there was also something strangely familiar. There was like a confirmation. I knew
always knew
something was
and
missing.
this is something that donor kids talk about. I didn't know I was a donor kid up until then, but this is something that people, you know, people who are adopted, people who are donor kids talk about a lot. This sense of, like, I don't know, something was up. Something was up. Something, I wasn't being told something, and I had that sense. So it did feel like they were giving me really important information.
What did you do with that information? So to hear it for the first time had to be jarring.
Yes.
But then what?
So then it felt like a call to adventure. It felt like, well, this is a really exciting opportunity for me to learn more about who I am and who I want to be, and to also make sense of my life. I think that's part of what was really healing about writing the memoir, is I got to look back at my life and say, oh, with this new information, I kind of understand it all now. But I wanted to write my way through that.
I mean, the other thing you write about so much, but one of the other things you write about is sort of the pressure you felt growing up. You knew you were wanted. You're an only child. You knew it. But it also, in some ways, you felt pressure to fix things, to control things as a little girl.
I know. A lot of times when I was writing, it was a really good reminder for me as a parent, right? Because kids' lives are so emotionally rich. Like, they have such huge emotional worlds, and it's so easy to just see them as kids. But as I was writing about myself as a 7-year-old, as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, I realized my kids have these oceans within them, and I want to honor their emotional world as I'm sort of excavating mine.
Was there, as we read through the book, there were pressures to be perfect, and you talk about your time in college where you were just kind of on your knees. It was a time where you were managing to look like everything was perfect. You got the great grades. You were partying. You were doing all the things.
Leading all the praise.
You were the one. But yet underneath that was all pretend.
A mess.
You were a mess. What was going on during that time?
Yeah, it's so funny because I think about that now, looking back. You know, being casted as Olivia Pope, everybody would always say professionally she's so put together. But her personal life is a mess. And I was like, that was me in college. I was really struggling with an eating disorder, some body dysmorphia, exercise disorder. I was struggling with substance. I just was struggling. I was really struggling, and I was using food and exercise and substance to just kind of numb and escape and try to fill this void.
What was that rock bottom? Like, what happened?
Was there a moment where you were like,
that's it?
It was a time when I felt like my whole world revolved around hating my body and not being able to stop using food to hurt myself. And that was when, as you said, that it really, truly put me on my knees.
Yeah.
And I think it was important because it was the first time as an only child, as a perfectionist, that I was like, I need help outside myself.
Yeah.
I can't do this alone. And I started therapy for the first time, and I really started to surrender, to be able to say, it was the first time that I realized, oh, maybe self-reliance is not the goal. Maybe it's okay to be in community to find
That's so
healing.
interesting, too. As somebody that was a perfectionist, as an only child, to know, like, I can reach out for help.
It's
it
out
was
there.
life-changing,
Do you talk to your
life-saving.
Are there things, because you've had this lived experience, that you do with your kids that maybe, you know, your mom didn't know to do with you?
I mean, I think we just try to be more open, you know, even just like, it was obviously very different conversations with our 3 kids, but even telling them about my paternity, you know, it's a different conversation with a 17-year-old than a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
But we want to let them know. I don't want them hearing things about our family in the playground that they're not hearing from us.
So the way that you have lived your life prior to this book was everything's close to the vest. I'm going to hide my engagement ring. My kids go up the side elevators.
Yeah.
Have things changed now? Now do you feel like, okay, like, can we just live a normal life out there in the world? Do you feel like that's a possibility for you?
I do. I mean, I think I still have to think things through, right? There are certain places where, because I'm much more open with where I go and what I do and where our family goes and what we do, I may have to bring security with me. I may have to have certain exits and entrances. But yes, you know, my girls and I, we went to the Beyonce concert. We walked through SoFi together. Like, we just...
Was that so fun, by the way?
It was so fun. It was so fun.
Oh, wow.
So great.
Wow.
But it is true. There's a lot more openness. There's a lot more freedom.
That
and my
must
whole
feel
family.
freeing.
Yes.
It's great.
Release.
I mean, my parents and I, we all are just much more comfortable in our skin with ourselves and with each other.
No more secrets.
No more secrets.
Well, maybe just a few.
Everyone's got
The big ones are out in the open.
Okay, wait.
Not everybody has to know everything.
Okay,
That's true.
There's more. Kerry Washington will be back with us right after this.
No more secrets. We are back with actress and author Kerry Washington, author. Isn't that
new.
nice?
Oh, girl.
New
She's
title.
out with an incredibly beautiful, very personal new memoir. It's called Thicker Than Water. It is right here.
Water is such a theme because, you know, everyone says, what's the saying? Blood
is
thicker. What is the thing?
Blood is thicker than water.
And
but
you
I say love is thicker than blood.
Talk about that a little bit. That's such a beautiful, beautiful theme.
Well, I really feel like water is the through line of our family. As I started to write, the imagery of water kept coming up again and again. You know, kind of the center of our neighborhood, our prize jewel was this neighborhood pool where I spent my summers. And then eventually my parents had a cabin in upstate New York, and there was a lake there. And just water is really a through line. My parents' first date, as I write about, ended at the beach.
Yes.
My dad fell in love with my mother when he watched her dive in the waves. It's just a really important element in the culture of our family.
Can we talk about your incredible husband? I wish I could find the exact quote, but you write something so beautiful.
Well, you know, he's amazing.
I adore him. I got to interview him a long time ago. You say he's basically your buoy. That when you met him, you all of a sudden...
I thought you were going to say your boo. I was like, Abdi.
That too.
Abdi is my husband.
And your buoy,
Yes.
Namdi. And wait, this is what you said. You said he was like a buoy, a life-saving beacon of belonging, a desert island, and after decades adrift. What was it about him when you first met him that made you feel those things?
In that moment, it was because he was the first person that I told after my parents told me. And so I came home and realized that as disorienting as the news was, as sort of confused and adrift as I felt, knowing that my family wasn't who I thought we were, when I saw him, I knew who this family was. I knew that no matter what I was feeling with my parents,
you were
that
creating
moment,
your own.
I belonged here in this home, in this family that we were
It's
creating.
interesting. Your family is not who you thought it was. I mean, that I mean, some of it must have stayed the same in the way you're obviously feeling about your parents, and some things were different.
Yes.
I see where it would be jarring, but that was really the only dad you knew throughout your whole entire upbringing, right?
Yeah, yes. I mean, so much changed in the dynamic of our family.
Yeah.
You know, we're much more transparent. We're much more honest.
Yeah.
We're, my mother says it so beautifully. She says we're less afraid to hurt each other, which is beautiful. But also, things didn't change. Like, my dad is my dad. He's always going to be my dad. I belong to him. He belongs to me. I feel so blessed to have been born to the parents I was born to.
How did you have the conversations with your kids about that? That must have been tricky.
It's interesting. I mean, in some ways, the world that my parents lived in when I was conceived, the world that I grew up in, is so different from my kids' world, right? Like, in their class, they have tons of donor kids and adopted kids and kids born from surrogates, and that's kind of
so it wasn't really shocking.
They were like, okay, next, like, can we have chicken for dinner? Like, it wasn't that. And obviously, we had very different conversations with our 17-year-old than our 6-year-old, right? I think I like to say that we meet them where they are by being led by their questions. So kind of give them a little bit of information and say, like, what do you want to know? What do you want to ask? But again, I think to do that, it's because we've tried to build a culture in our home where you really can ask anything, right? Like, there's no wrong questions. You can ask us anything and we'll tell you as much as we can.
I mean, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking that all of your life has led you to be, above anything, an exceptional mother. Like, I can feel it.
That's very sweet of you. It's funny because I think one of the things that I learned in writing the book is no matter how hard you try, because God knows my parents tried so hard, you're never going to get it all right. You can have the best of intentions.
Like, let's put the money in for therapy now.
Therapy fund. Yes, but I think in learning to give my parents more grace, I've also learned to give myself more grace as a parent.
Beautiful. You got to pick it up, you
Kerry,
guys.
we adore you, and this book is gorgeous.
Thank you. It is called Thicker Than Water. It is out today.
Yes.
You can find it in a lot of places, but also today.com/books.
Go to your indie bookstores, y'all. Okay.